you could you could go out there and like have like he obviously had his beliefs and he had his values, right? Like, he's very conservative, obviously, but he was also the type where like he could sit down with, like a liberal, not a leftist, but a liberal, and like have a conversation with them and actually, like be able to change their mind kind of, um, you know, with just having a conversation with them.
Hmm.
So, and that's
Well,
an
he was incredibly socially gifted. Like he was just a socially gifted person, and um, I felt like hold on, I felt like that he would he would try to interact with it. Like he would try to interact with you, and because he was so socially gifted, he tried to get a feel for you to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and he'd try to build on it. Like he's because he did that with he did that with Milo. He did that with Ben Shapiro. He did that with a lot like even with like Greg Gutfeld. Like there was a lot of that interaction that he kind of just
I I will tell you that when I talk that the Ben Shapiro that I met and I talked to was way different than the Ben Shapiro we have now.
Mhm.
Like Ben was not as I think Ben was kind of aristocratic starting out, and then when he went to work for Breitbart, he kind of chilled out a bit. But then once he got funding for the Daily Wire, he kind of went back to his aristocratic ways, if that makes sense. Um, so that's my take on Ben, basically. But
Yeah.
I think if Andrew would have stayed alive, the conservative movement would be way different in a better way, for sure. So
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, uh there's not I mean there really isn't much like and I know Steve Bannon, like people give Steve Bannon shit, but like I felt like he wasn't really like that wasn't a role that was meant for him. Like it's not Steve Bannon isn't smart. He's smart, he's very counterintuitive, but it's not that was not that being in charge of Breitbart was not for him. Like it's just certain people just aren't meant to do certain shit. And then like that was not for him. Um, and
Oh,
that's okay.
well, I think he originally started out as like just an investor with Breitbart, and then I mean the thing of it was Andrew's death was so sudden that like
Yeah.
that no one really knew what to
It left a
do.
hole. It left a hole. Yeah. I mean, like he left it. I mean, he left uh an obvious legacy, but like he was still a part of this thing that left a huge hole. And that's kind of that's kind of what happens. That's kind of what happens when you're in it. Like, certain people die, but they die like after they've retired or something like that. Like he was still in it. Like he was still kind of in it.
Well, he was
And
he was only 47 when he was only 47 years old when he died. I mean, he was not, you know, he wasn't even like really middle aged at that point. You know, like he was still a young guy. So and I mean I know some people in the chat say that he was assassinated, and I don't subscribe to that theory only because I've talked to people who knew Andrew Breitbart, and apparently he was adopted, and because he was adopted, no one knew his genetics, and apparently he had